Hello, everyone. My name is Doug Foote. I'm the Social Media and Campaign Specialist at Working America, the community affiliate of the AFL-CIO. This is going to be Twitter 201. Many, if not all of you, hopefully saw Danielle's great 101 training. Just quickly at first, I hope many of you or all of you have Twitter accounts set up. If you don't mind giving a follow to both Working America and Footsteps, which is me. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to take what you learned in Twitter 101, do a little bit of review, but also build on that knowledge. We're going to talk about some different tools and tactics. Now that you're in this world and set up with the basics, here are some things you can do with it. But really, I want to lay a foundation for you all to feel comfortable to, explore the world of Twitter, figure out what works best for your organization and works best for your goals, because there's no one right way to do any of it. It's still very new. So here's just our quick agenda. We're going to review a little bit what we talked about in 101, some basic Twitter anatomy, and about hashtags. We're going to talk about how to use Twitter without going to twitter.com, which is how myself and a lot of the folks who do social media work here interact with this platform. We're going to talk about telling a friend. We're going to briefly touch on tactics because there's so much in there. We're going to ask who tweeted it better. I'm going to take your questions. And finally, you can continue after this training is done on the OneUDigital hashtag. Use your the tweeting skills you've learned, ask questions, spread the word about things that you've done that have worked, and pretty much, again, practice what you learned in Twitter 101 and 201. So here we go. We're going to review. Really important to start out talking about what Twitter is and what it is not. It is not Facebook. It is not your getting on Twitter is not a communications plan. Twitter is one tactic that you would use for your communications plan. Again, just because it's the internet doesn't mean it's an excuse to be sloppy. Certainly, there are lots of folks on Twitter, spelling things wrong, writing things that make no sense, being nasty or crazy or swearing or doing all that stuff doesn't mean that you have to as well. It's not endemic to the medium. That's just something that happens when you get all sorts of people on the internet together. Twitter is also not a replacement for high-quality content. It's a way to amplify that content and get it out. Twitter is definitely a great way to directly connect to supporters. It's a great way to track events in real time, and it's a real-time social search engine. So again, here's Twitter anatomy. Here's a basic tweet. 6 ways teachers' unions are good for kids. You can see that we have a shortened link that'll go to this article. We are mentioning Randy Weingarten, the AFD president. We have 1U in there, and we also have thank a teacher, which we tweeted this during, I believe it was Teacher Appreciation Week, and that was the hashtag. As we'll talk about that. That was the hashtag that AFD was using in all of its material, so they got us all on the same page. And here's a crucial part of Twitter anatomy that we talked about in 101. If you start your tweet with an @ reply, so if the first character in your tweet of your 140 characters is that @ sign, Twitter thinks you are directly replying to someone, even if you're not. So it's the equivalent of you turn your head to talk to someone as opposed to shouting something out so everyone can hear. So here is a demonstration of how you use just a dot. That's what I like to use to make sure your tweet is going to all your followers instead of being treated like a specific reply. So even though I did use I started this out with transport, like TWU, that's transport worker, Twitter knows because I put the period there that I'm not directly replying to something they said. I am referencing it and referencing that this is an article by President Little. So here are a couple other examples, and this is a mistake that people make all the time. It's like the most common sort of Twitter anatomy mistake. So sometimes you do want that dot, and sometimes you don't. For instance, if you're just referring to President Trumpka, to AFL-CIO President Trumpka, you'll want to not start it with the @ sign, to the @ reply, because then you're just talking to that person. So you would use like .AFL-CIO President Trumpka. But on the other hand, if you just want to give someone a shout out, drop someone a line, send a message to someone of something you might think they'd like, you don't need that dot. For instance, something I like to do, and this is the second example in the middle here, if someone tweeted out something great about Work in America or retweeted a petition that we had going around, you can just drop them a note without that dot in front, and you're like directly replying to them. And the only people who see that are users who follow both of you. So if you wanted just me to see something and maybe a couple followers we have in common, you wouldn't use that dot. But if you wanted to tell everyone who follows you, footsteps, has brown hair, then you would use that dot. And I don't know why you would be saying that, but if starting the tweet with anything but that @ reply is the equivalent of shouting it out so everyone can hear, so all your followers see it. Okay, we're going to do a review of hashtags. When I first started doing Twitter work, hashtags were not something that everyone knew about, but as you can see now, they're on T-shirts, on the sides of buses, on movie posters. These are all the hashtags used in the Super Bowl commercials in 2011. It's not just internet nerds watching the Super Bowl, it's everyone. Clearly these brands thought it was worth their while to spend all this money to make sure everyone out there knew how to talk about their products in a way that they wanted them to. And that was using a Twitter hashtag and including it in their ad. So just a quick review, what's a hashtag? That pound symbol turns whatever word it's on into a link to all tweets with that tag. And it is really helpful to use these on Twitter to tell people what you're talking about. You don't have that many characters to always remind people what the thing is you're talking about. So if I say, I can't believe this is happening, I could be talking about anything. But if I say, I can't believe this is happening about the Pennsylvania voter ID law, or, very differently, I can't believe this is happening, Scandal, because I'm watching Scandal and I am shocked at what I am seeing, and I want the whole world to know that. So what you get when you combine Twitter and hashtags, you get an enormous real-time search engine about things that are happening now. If everyone is at the same event and the same hashtag, you can follow pretty much what's going on there. People do this for conferences. People do this. We've done this for online chats. If many of you are in states where people, whether it's reporters, staffers, whoever it is, want to live tweet along with legislative sessions, that hashtags is very useful for that. So if you are someone outside of it or someone who wants to know information about the topic, you can go onto that hashtag and see every single tweet that has been sent worldwide about an issue. This is people forget one of the differences between Twitter and Facebook is that Twitter is completely public unless you're sending a private direct message. Anyone in the world who is on Twitter can see these messages. So you could have, theoretically, a worldwide discussion about labor thanks to hashtags, thanks to that mechanism for organizing all these different messages. So the example I like to use of why hashtags are useful, say you are an actor or director and want to look at tweets about acting. If you just type in acting to Twitter, this is what you'll see. People acting like this, Yankees fans acting this way. I think one of these is actually about acting, but it's in the middle of a whole bunch of other stuff of people just using that word. So here's hashtag acting. These are almost all about the art of acting, casting, theater. Here's a link to a casting workshop. So thanks to using the hashtag, this information is all organized for you to go and find it. So this is how you might frequently feel as a new Twitter user, and it's a totally valid way to feel. There's no directory for hashtags. You can't just say, oh, let me look up what people are using to talk about the minimum wage campaign in Minnesota. There's no real source for you to just look up what that is. You sort of have to divine it or figure it out or look at what people are using or ask your allies. Please ask your allies things. Sometimes, like in that Super Bowl example, or if there's a hashtag on the side of a bus, as there is now, they're top down. They are, the H&M folks are telling you that to engage in this discussion about David Beckham wearing their products in that commercial, use Beckham HM because it's right there in the commercial. But sometimes they're completely organic. One of the first hashtags a lot of us really came in touch with was Wisconsin Union, and there's been a lot of talk about, was that really the right way to tag all this discussion about the worker attacks in Wisconsin? Well, maybe not, but it was something that sprung out of thousands and thousands of people just organically without anyone telling them, using the same hashtag to talk about Scott Walker and the recall elections and all of that. Another example that was a couple weeks ago, people just making jokes about names of fake DC bars. No one announced to a whole room of people or sent an email that said this was going to be the hashtag, but it's something that a lot of people saw. They wanted to get in on it. They started using that tag, and it was a lot of fun for those folks. So how do you figure out? You ask allies. If you're engaged in a campaign with a bunch of other people, shoot an email around. Hey, I'm going to be tweeting about, the Missouri legislature's bill today, or anti-worker bill today. What are you guys using? Ask Twitter. Look up a couple of different terms. Just do some quick searches and figure out what it seems like people are using. Analytics.topsy.com allows you to see. You can compare different search terms and see how many times each one has been mentioned. So if you're talking about minimum wage and you want to say what are people using, you can go on that site and you'll see maybe that 40 people used min wage, but 300,000 people said raise the wage. So that's the one. That's the one that generally people are using if they're looking for this information. I'm sorry, I'm from the East Coast. I talk very fast, but hopefully that was some good review for folks. So now we're going to talk about Twitter tools. I don't know for a fact, but I think these two birds are union, so luckily. We wouldn't use non-union birds in this presentation. So all these folks are excited because they don't have to go to twitter.com to use Twitter. Which is really helpful depending on what you prefer, but I know myself and lots of other people don't use Twitter all the time, but never go to the site twitter.com. And how is this possible? Well, there are a couple of, actually not a couple, there are probably hundreds and hundreds of tools available that tap into Twitter's programming, its API, so you can use Twitter straight from your desktop, straight from your phone. Maybe you have it in the toolbar of your browser, so you can tweet directly from there. But here are a couple of the most commonly used tools. TweetDeck and Hootsuite are kind of the big dogs in this area. The funny thing about all these tools is that they used to be much more different, and then they all tried to copy each other. So now they're much more close together. They have a much more similar functionality. And even Twitter.com has looked at what they've done and tried to integrate it into their regular platform. So, at this point, it's pretty much your personal preference what you want to use. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about TweetDeck. It's my personal favorite tool because, particularly for tracking keywords and tracking sentiment and being able to manage multiple accounts. It organizes Twitter into different columns so you can see what people are talking about on different topics. And you can be, you don't have to just look at Twitter all the time and stare at it and see what it says. You can go and do something else, and then if someone mentions Working America or mentions One U Digital and you want to get notified of that, you can get a little notification. Okay, but don't be surprised when you first see it. It looks crazy. So here's what my TweetDeck looks like. Don't be scared, guys. So this is just people I follow. This is mentions of Working America. This is mentions of our awesome advice columnist, David Wade, Dear David WA. And this is also a good point. Not everyone's going to know your specific handle. If you're, IBEW, they might not know that you're just at IBEW, or that the ironworkers are, I'm not even sure actually, I'm sorry. But so you might want to have a search running for just people typing out the term Working America or whatever organization you belong to, because not everyone who's talking about you will know the correct handle to use. A lot of times people are just using the words Working in America together, so I get a lot of that. But also it's very helpful because people might mention that a canvasser came to their door, or that they're really interested in the organization and they won't use my handle. They'll just say Working America, 2 words. So that's something, TweetDeck and these other tools are useful for tracking keywords like that. So this blue button in the corner with the quill and paper is how you compose. So notice that I have the option. I have signed into a bunch of different accounts, so I can tweet from 2 or 3 at once, or just separately, without signing in and out constantly. Into my personal or into my work one, or that can get kind of confusing. And TweetDeck helps you organize that. So here's what I want to say. I wouldn't say this about myself in real life, but for the example, Footsteps is showing me TweetDeck. It looks like the inside of an insane person's brain, #OneUDigital. And notice since I want the whole world to know that this is insane, and not just reply to Doug, I'm using that dot at the beginning. So here's what I can do. I can do a couple things here. I can say, I want this tweet to show up at 3:26 on June 4th. I don't know if that's passed already. Let me look at my clock. So say I wanted this to show up not immediately, but 5 minutes from now, or I could do it a month. I could schedule it for a month from now. If, say, I knew there was a hearing going on, but I couldn't be there to cover it in real time. I could schedule a couple tweets in advance for that. So that's something really useful. You can also click that little camera and attach pretty much any image file, and it'll be transferred into a Twitter picture. It'll be shown as a link. So say I tweeted this. Here's what it would show up on Twitter.com as. It automatically did that image upload for me, and no one was the wiser. So I'm going back in time a little bit to what my TweetDeck looked like in the aftermath of the 2011 election in Ohio, with Issue 2, with SB 5, with John Kasich, all that fun stuff, blast from the past. And here's what you could set up. You could look at all mentions of Issue 2. You could look at just the no on 2 people. You can use Boolean terms to say I want people saying Kasich or John Kasich in one column, and you can also put a link in there if you want to see everyone tweeting a particular link. I like to do that sometimes if we're running a petition. You can just right in this platform, you can directly reply to people who are tweeting your petition or tweeting about your organization, tweeting a blog post of yours, and you can continue that interaction past just them tweeting that. You can thank them. You can talk about whatever the article in question is. So that's pretty useful. Probably my favorite thing about this tool is that it has something called a global filter. So, for instance, if I was going to miss the episode of the show I watch and I knew people were going to be talking about it, I can type it in and say, for the time being, I don't want to see any tweets about, favorite show here, Scandal, Game of Thrones. I don't want the spoilers, whatever it is. But even better for your organization is that you can make some of those people who are saying mean things to you and distracting things to you completely disappear with that filter option. You're not blocking them. They don't know that you're not seeing them, but their tweets are gone. And you are completely within your rights to not have to look at them if people are harassing you pretty much on the internet. So you can see, like I said, you can see who's tweeting your link. You can also customize notifications. So say I want a little pop-up when someone mentions One U Digital, but I want it to ding and a pop-up when someone mentions Work in America. These are all things you can do with that tool. Here's how, if you're interested in giving this a shot, I like the Chrome app because I use Chrome as my browser. You can do that, or you can download it as a desktop program. But again, this is all about personal preference. No one's gonna, if someone tells you that, oh, if you don't like TweetDeck, you don't get it, or you're doing it wrong, that's not right. There are lots and lots of these different Twitter tools that people can use. Some have more functionality than others. It's pretty much about what your personal preference is. But this particular tool has been useful to me. Okay, next we're going to talk about Tell a Friend. So this was 9 Demands of the 99%, one of Working America's most successful online campaigns. What folks would do, they would sign on to these 8 basic demands. This was sort of at the height of Occupy. They'd sign on to these 8 demands and add their own. And so we had thousands and thousands of people working with partners, working with some of you on this call probably, to have so many people sign on to this. And one of the reasons it was so successful is that after the user took action, after they said their demand and said I sign on and add their information, they arrived here at what we call a Tell a Friend page. There's absolutely no doubt what you're supposed to do on this page. Those buttons are really big and really clear. It is not. There's no doubt what you're supposed to do here. And so we had lots and lots and lots of people sharing this as well as signing it, and that sort of helped it spread around the internet faster and reach more people reaching into their personal networks. Here's another example from U.S. Action. It has the text of the email that you can send. It's all laid out for you very clearly what you're supposed to do. And so this might look like some ugly code, but you can insert something on an image, on text, insert a link where someone can click it, and then they will get prompted to tweet something specific. So if you wanted to generate a lot of tweets about a certain topic, generate a lot of tweets on a certain hashtag, or directed at a certain lawmaker or other account, this is the basic building block of how you do that. And I'm not going to go too much into this because we're getting into coding territory here. But these are 3 really useful sites that I recommend if you're making links like this. Twitter.com itself has these little buttons that you can customize. You can make it show up the number of how many people have clicked on that link, and you can also have the text prearranged. Click to tweet.com is exactly what it sounds like. You can make a link based on any tweet pretty much. If you want to give someone some content that they can just click and tweet and be done. Watershed Share is how I am able to make my Telefriend forms for Facebook and Twitter. So that's all on Telefriend. I didn't want to get too technical on that, but that's something I recommend looking into. And then again, just quickly something to introduce the idea of analytics. There is no one good analytics tool. Twitter itself doesn't have one for itself. I know for Facebook, if you are a Facebook page admin, you have insights, which are super useful, and everyone has them. Twitter doesn't have something comparable. I use a combination of the Twitter ads platform. You don't have to spend any money. You don't have to put a credit card number in or anything. It has the option where you can see how many retweets you've gotten on certain things. It'll show you your sort of top tweets, and analytics again, analytics.topsy.com. You can compare different search terms and see how many times you've been mentioned versus other people. Monitor at wildfireapp.com, monitor.wildfireapp.com allows you to compare the growth of your followers compared to other users. But I would say instead of concentrating 100% or even 50% on real-time numbers of how everything is doing, please, I would recommend concentrating on your content and being social. That means that you're not just treating this as a way to get your press release out. You're not just announcing things to the world. The cool thing about social media is that you can interact with pretty much anyone from all over the world. You can write something that you can write to Cory Booker, you can write a message to Chris Christie, you can write a message to your favorite celebrity. Not necessarily they're gonna reply to you, but you are getting that message to them, depending on how many followers they have and how many messages they have to comb through. So that's an advantage that Twitter has that no other platform has. So please avail yourself of it. And I would just look at your follower growth. I would track that, but you don't have to know how many people are seeing every single tweet. And if someone does know of a great analytics platform that is free, let me know. So this is going to be the chunk of what we're talking about is Twitter tactics. And first we're going to look at this tweet from Claire McCaskill from 2010. Claire McCaskill, senior senator, she's senior senator at this point? Senior senator from Missouri, who was one of the first and greatest Twitter users in the U.S. Senate and in probably Congress. But this doesn't have anything to do with that at all. This is just her talking about Family Day and her grits, and she's doting on her grandson and how much she loves Sundays, and why on earth is this esteemed senator with so much power and could be talking about anything else? Why is she talking about grits and her grandson? So I would say, I don't want to assume that she's being, tricky and conniving here, but part of what she wants to convey is that she is a normal person who cares about the same things you do. She's not a captive of Washington. She's not a soulless politician who doesn't know about great things like grits and Sundays. So this tweet helps convey that to people. And, if she wanted to, she could only talk about what the work she was doing in the Senate, but this is something she wanted to convey. And so what's the point of this tweet? This is from the Workplace Competitiveness Institute, and they were replying directly to us, to Working America. Notice they don't have the dot there. This was a direct reply to us, and so the only people who saw this were those who followed both Working America, the community affiliate of the AFL-CIO, and Workplace Choice, a anti-union think tanky AstroTurf group. And I would guess that that is very few people, so very few people saw this to begin with. But also, why were they writing this to us? Were they trying to change our minds about unions? What exactly were they doing? So I introduced these two things to help you think about, Twitter is a tactic, and that you should always start with your goal. Your goal is not to be on Twitter necessarily. Your goal is something else, and I would urge you to think of Facebook, Twitter, email, any other social platform you're using as tactics toward a goal. So this is an incomplete list of ways to use Twitter to achieve different goals. So this bad bill is moving in my state, and I want national coverage of it, or just greater coverage of it. I feel like maybe some of you on this call can relate to this sentiment. So here are a couple things you can do. You can tweet at reporters. Reporters are all over Twitter. They love it. They're always on. It's almost a better way to contact them than email for some of them. You can email supporters and ask them to get the word out on their own Twitter feed, so you have lots and lots of people tweeting about this bad bill. You can follow the legislative proceedings and tweet along with it. If for Missouri, it's MO-Ledge, that hashtag. It's MN-Ledge for Minnesota. I think that's how it is for lots of states. For the General Assembly in North Carolina, it's NCGA. Reporters, staffers, any folks interested in these proceedings will be on that hashtag and looking at what's there. You can also ask for help. We have a couple of great listservs like LaborCom, where people are saying, "Hey, help us get the word out about this." I would recommend giving sample content, so someone's just copy and paste something. You always want to sort of, when you're asking for help, make it as easiest to be helped as possible. So here's an example of what we were doing. I was in Missouri while the legislature was debating paycheck deception, which, you can't just go on to your friends and say, "Oh my God, it's paycheck deception." They'll go, "What?" So it really does take a lot of spreading word about facts, tweeting powerful quotes, in real time, refuting the claims that your opponents are making. We were sitting up in the gallery just tweeting as things went along. There were a bunch of us. And there was one point where there was a dramatic filibuster of the bill, and we really pushed hard. We tried to let our allies know all over so they would be invested as well. But notice we all used the same hashtag. So anyone who was looking at this discussion, that was for general legislative issues in the state would say, "Man, there doesn't seem to be a lot of people for this bill. It's mostly people talking about how it's against it." That bill did end up passing with a much smaller majority than expected, and I think that was partly not just because of Twitter by itself, but because of the general goal of spreading the word of how bad this bill was, and how it had nothing to do with creating jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we achieved that. People just don't get this issue. I want to do a public education campaign. I think the AFL-CIO has had a couple of great Twitter chats where you pick a specific time and day, you get a bunch of folks together, you tweet out facts about the issue, paid sick days, whatever it is, and maybe you can get an expert or someone significant to join. It's kind of an easy ask for them to be at a computer somewhere for a half hour and sort of engage in this topic. And so many people, so many big names are on Twitter. It's almost a requirement nowadays. So definitely every senator and congressman, lots of different big names at think tanks. This has been done a couple of really successful times in the labor movement. So I recommend it as something to spread the word about an issue. And with a tool like TweetDeck or Hootsuite, you can schedule things in advance. So that maybe every day, once a day, you're tweeting out information about your issue. You can, in the case of paycheck deception, I did a 10 things you need to know about paycheck deception blog post, and just, every day it was one of the items that you need to know. But again, if you're working with allies, make sure you're all using the same hashtag. That is the mechanism that keeps us all together. Here is President Trumka on the One You Future tweet chat. It was awesome. It was great. And here's him again with a bunch of other people talking about paid sick days using Wellness Wednesday. That bottom one is really what you're the reaction you're aiming for. Check this out. It's not something that everyone knows about, but it's really important to working people. Is basically what she was saying. I'm paraphrasing. I'm assuming knowledge, but basically that's this individual saw lots of tweets about this one topic all at the same time. She went to check it out and she learned something about a topic she didn't know a lot about or didn't think it was a big deal. So that's really kind of what you're aiming for. This is another one that you can all relate to. Senator X is a swing vote on Y issue. I want to flood him or her with tweets urging action on Y. I'm sure all of you are mentally plugging in who that and what that is for you. So here's something about elected officials. They're getting a lot of tweets every day, especially federal ones, about how they're horrible and how they're killing everyone and how they're the downfall of everything. So don't be one of those people. You're representing an organization, and you kind of want to stand out from all these folks on all sides of every aisle, kind of freaking out at this person on Twitter. So keep that in mind. You want to stand out. One of the ways to do this, for instance, if you have an email action, make sure that your Twitter tell-a-friend has their username in it. So every time someone does it, they'll get a mention, they'll get a notification, they'll see that lots of different people are tweeting the same thing at them, and enlist others. Make sure you're not the one user over and over talking about this issue at this same target. You can use a scheduling tool to spread them out, and again, make sure everyone is using the same hashtag. I have not known. There was one day when sort of the whole internet seemed arrayed against SOPA, and that's the only time I saw that many senators on Twitter, senators and congressmen, sort of in real time, getting so many messages that they felt the need to respond. Other than that, I don't think there's one clear issue of people using Twitter to move an elected official, like Twitter exclusively. Again, it's one tactic of many. But recently there was a successful campaign against Reebok to drop hip-hop artist Rick Ross as their spokesperson because of his comments about rape. And Ultraviolet had this petition, to Reebok, the company, and they also had a clear ask on the Telefriend. Thank you for signing. Can you share it with your friends? And see how they have that tweet this box. So every time someone tweeted this particular thing, Reebok, whoever poor soul was managing Reebok's social media account, got a little notification, and so did the organization sending it. So Ultraviolet, the advocacy organization, had an idea of how many people were doing this over what course of time. And some of you know the end of the story. This was successful. Reebok did drop Rick Ross as a spokesperson. Again, Twitter was one of many tactics, calls, emails. But since Twitter's sort of the public square where everyone's shouting their opinions into the void, and you get like a lot of people talking about one thing, that can really make a splash if you're trying to push a company that profit-driven company to action, and that was the case with Reebok. So my organization is new to Twitter. Not a lot of people follow us. We just want to grow our presence online. I think this applies to all of us. My recommendation is being consistent. You don't want to never tweet for months and months, and then on one day you're like, oh my God, Scott Walker is doing this again. Because if someone's following you, and I'm using him as an example because that can be any day, right? So, someone who's following you is having this experience of not even knowing who you are, and then all of a sudden you're their entire feed about one thing that maybe they know nothing about. So I would say be consistent. Obviously if you're covering a live event, you want to tweet a lot more that day in that period of time. But otherwise, I would say a few times a day. There's no right answer. Some people say, X times a day is the best for, efficiency. It really depends who you are, but I would say just be consistent. Be informative. People are in Twitter in part to gain knowledge. This is where the issue of tone comes in. Why don't you support Paid Sick Days, you moron? Maybe they have no idea what that issue is about at all. So expressing, real-time facts that, this is an issue that affects this many people. This means they can't stay home from work when they're sick. That's why 90% of restaurant workers reported, going to work while sick because there's not this law. There are plenty of people on the internet yelling and shouting and calling people morons, but you don't have to be one of those people. You can be the authority. And that's sort of my next 2 points. Just be courteous. You have a lot of friends out there. A lot of them are on this call. If someone's providing good information, tell people. Say, follow AFL-CIO. They're talking about, great Paid Sick Days stuff with Moms Rising. Working America is live tweeting from the Minnesota legislature. They're debating whether or not to raise the minimum wage. We talked briefly about Follow Friday. That's just #FF. That's sort of the informal tradition on Twitter where you recommend people you think are useful or you would like to follow on Friday. People love that, and especially not just organizations but individual people. Again, we talked about being one union. There is a lot of cool stuff being done by folks on this call. So there's there's always a net positive from shouting that out and making someone feel appreciated. And the other point is if you are the go-to person for workers' issues in Nebraska, if you're like the go-to account, you'll get a lot more followers than if you than just someone who's talking about everything all the time. Some of the most interesting people to follow on Twitter are folks who are complete experts on something kind of narrow. And that's not always possible for every organization, but if you are the authority on a certain topic and someone sees out of the corner of your eye your little picture coming up on their Twitter feed, they're going to be like, I wonder what they said about this topic. So that's something to strive to. And like I've said many times, there's so much nastiness and spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and just, horrible things being said on the internet. You absolutely don't have to be that. You don't have to engage in it. You don't have to emulate it. There's so many other people who just want info. So remember what that end user is seeing. Here's another. So as an example, and this has happened to all of us, right? Tea Party guy on the internet just called me some names, and I'm going to tweet back and really say some stuff, and, somehow that's going to fix something. So what is the goal of that, really? I don't think it even makes you feel better because it didn't change this person's mind. If they are going on there and calling you a socialist and a union thug, you're not going to say a couple of things at them and have another union supporter in your ranks. Use the global filter or just block them, make them disappear. You don't want to have to look at their message to you every time you log in. And just remember, for every one of them, there are 100 or maybe 1,000 other people, even just on this platform, that are talking about, celebrities and TV shows and, what they ate and ate for breakfast and all that sort of thing. But they all have jobs. They all are affected by the issues you work on. and they could be swayed to be mobilized around the issue you're talking about. So literally, I made this guy's username up, but it could, there are lots of people out there who are gonna, yell at you and call you things and say things you wouldn't say in front of your grandmother. You don't have to engage with them. There's absolutely no point in it. There are different schools of thought. Some people think that engaging with the trolls and sort of getting is a way to spread information. I say 99% of the time, just resist the urge. Just take a deep breath, take a walk, or whatever you need to do. Block them, make them disappear, so you don't have to look at them, and keep going, spreading the word about what's really going on. So, whatever works for you is the best way to use Twitter, I'd say. But here we're going to just look at a couple of examples of different tweets about the same thing. So this is about Governor Corbett's plan to privatize wine and spirit shops in Pennsylvania. This top one is, there he goes again. Governor Corbett continues attacks on workers. Second one is Governor Corbett moving to privatize wine and spirit shops in PA. Governor Corbett's wine and spirit shops plan puts 5,000 good PA jobs at risk. Here's what I'd say about this first one. Most people don't know what you're talking about. There he goes again. Attacks on workers is very broad. They don't know necessarily that he has done stuff like this before. I know we're always in front of the fire hose of political news, but most people aren't, and attacking workers is very broad. So they might be curious and click on your link, but I'm not sure they're going to pass this on to your friends. Governor Corbett, this second one, similar. If you work in a wine and spirit shops or familiar with the issue, you might know why privatizing it is inherently bad. But unless you're sort of more immersed in these issues, you're not gonna read this tweet and think, oh, is that a bad thing? Are they saying that's bad? Or does that mean it'll cost less to shop there? They really don't know. I would say in general on the internet, you want to, it allows you to practice explaining these issues to someone who doesn't know anything about them, which is mostly what you're going to have to do when you communicate around these issues. So I'd say this third one, it says what is wrong with it. It says what's wrong with this plan. It puts these good jobs at risk. And once again, who's to know? Maybe that top one would get tons more clicks. It's kind of random, but I would say communicating what's at the base of an issue is best. So here are 3 different tweets that we talked about, that we sent out from Working America. Let's see if we can do this. Who thinks the first one got retweeted the most? On it, raise your hand. Will that work? 0? Oh, sorry. Please click that raise hand button up in the upper left if you think no. Oh, a couple of you. The first one got retweeted the most. Who thinks that's true? Okay. Oh, well, either way, a couple people think that. Who thinks that second one got retweeted the most? A lot. A lot of you think that. Okay, interesting. Who thought this third one at the bottom got retweeted the most? Again, a fairly high number. A few folks think that these bottom 2. Oh, sorry. Now put your hands down. So you have said that you thought these bottom 2 were the tweets most likely to be passed on, to be retweeted. So let's see what it was. Uh-oh. I guess it's hard to tell just looking at a tweet, whether it was most likely to be passed on. It could have been the time of day. It could have been a lot of other people were talking about this issue. maybe not a lot of people were interested in at the time that we were tweeting it. I think maybe what happened was this top one, it doesn't have a particular slant. It's not angry. It's straight up telling you what happened, and then a link to more information about it. But who's to know really what happened? Who's to know why this got so many more? Maybe those 7 people who were there for the top one didn't see these bottom 2. So that was a lot of information. Thanks for bearing with me, and now we'll do some questions at the remainder of the time. Again, the adventure continues online. Feel free to continue this discussion on that OneUDigital hashtag.
Okay, so you can type your questions right there in the chat box. You can send them to all if you want everyone to see them, or you can send it directly to Doug Foote, who is the presenter. And we've already have a couple questions here that we'll start off with that were sent during the presentation.
Repeat the use of the dot. Twitter, if you start your tweet with just that @ reply, like if you if you wanted to say Al Franken is the senator from Minnesota. If you just started that with Al Franken, if you just started it with his username, Twitter thinks you are saying something to him, and the only people who would see that are people who are following you and Al Franken, because it's like if you in real life, if you knew those people, you'd only be privy to that conversation if you knew those 2 people. So to make sure Twitter knows you are saying something public, that it's a normal tweet, you put a dot or really just put that term somewhere else in the tweet. I know it's confusing, but I use the dot because it's quick way to tell Twitter that this is not a reply. It's a public tweet to everyone, and I hope that helps. And part of this is going out and seeing what's useful for you out while you use Twitter. What size should videos and what size should photos and videos be as attachments? I think Twitter itself has a size limit. I think it might be 2 megabytes, and I might have just made that up. But generally, if a video is already on YouTube, you can just tweet a link to that. So tweeting videos is really great that way. But if you're tweeting from your phone, generally your phone will figure out the best way to compress your photo for Twitter. Some of the greatest photos we have of strikes and actions are people live tweeting on the scene and tweeting photos. So that's a really great thing to do. A tip: cancel scheduled tweets during national or local crisis, like the Boston bombing. There were some brands and some organizations who had already scheduled tweets about various things, and they were getting sent out as people were desperately looking for information, using Twitter to look for information about these bombings that had happened. So please keep that in mind. Sometimes you want to schedule things in advance, and sometimes you want to make sure you're canceling them. Hashtags are not case sensitive, but if you put any sort of punctuation, it breaks the tweet. So that includes @ and stars and parentheses, and pretty much any punctuation will break up that hashtag. And question marks as well. So sometimes you want to be witty and put a sort of a sarcastic question mark in your hashtag. It doesn't work. It breaks it up. I'm just looking through your questions. A couple of people asking about capitalization. It does not matter.
It also doesn't matter for search. It doesn't make a difference.
All right. Jess points out it also doesn't matter for searching things. We have a question about clout score, KLOUT. Do we recommend it as a tool to measure your Twitter performance? I don't really use it. I find it's pretty difficult to measure your Twitter performance in general. It's pretty much their company, and they want to make money, so they're trying to make it out to be the cool tool to use, but I don't find that. Setting up and managing lists. That is actually something you can do with TweetDeck inside the platform. That just means that if you want to make a list, if you want to, have a column there. So if you want to search, these are a bunch of reporters who are useful about a certain issue, you can manually add a bunch of usernames to a list and then have that be a column you can search. Or lots of people have already made lots of different lists. So before you go out and want to make your own, I would see which ones are available already. Do we have any more questions?
There's one that says, how much should I focus on using Twitter if most of our followers aren't using it? Most of our followers. She might have just sent it to me.
Okay. So compared to Facebook, there are a lot fewer people on Twitter. So I would say if you're trying to grow your online presence in general, you want to focus on Facebook first, just because there are so many more people at your disposal that you could possibly reach. Twitter does have this advantage of being completely public and completely, like the big global town square. So you can, if a lot of people are tweeting about a certain topic, the whole world sees it in a way that doesn't work with Facebook. With Facebook, you see your friends and the people you opt in to follow. But if I'm searching for news on a certain topic, if I want to know what's going on in Minnesota, and everyone in Minnesota is tweeting about the one thing that just happened, the sports event, the legislative event, whatever it is, then I know that that's the big deal. But if you're just starting out with your online presence, I would say concentrate on Facebook first. But Twitter does have things that are unique about it. Is there a limit of characters you can use? Yes, all Twitter is 140 characters. One of the things I like about tools like TweetDeck and a couple of others are if you insert a link, it'll automatically shorten it for you. So it makes it easier to fit everything in there. Nicole asks, can you recommend some accounts to follow that do good campaign work on Twitter? I know a couple off the top of my head. Working America, AFL-CIO. I bet a bunch of folks can shout out their own. It would be great if everyone on this call is following each other. But you can look right now on the hashtag #OneUDigital and see who's talking about this training right now. I haven't looked yet. I hope it's good. Do you think it's good to have locked Twitter account for an organization? Absolutely not. If there is something you want to say that's private, it should not be on Twitter. You can think of, I use the real life example because really when you're tweeting something, it's sort of like you're shouting it out for the whole world to hear. And we all know of examples off the top of our head where people didn't think of Twitter that way and thought they were saying something private. And then they got in trouble because it was the online equivalent of shouting it very loud so that the whole world could hear it. So please do not lock your Twitter accounts. That is only, I don't really know what that's for, actually. That's for if you want only, if it's your personal account, if you want very few people, if it's like a very certain thing, you want only a couple people to be following it. But Twitter is the platform for getting information out to as many people as possible. So please do not lock your Twitter accounts. All right, any more questions? Oh, do you take time to verify your organizational account? I personally do not know how to do that.
We have the SCIO has a verified account. We actually had to go through Twitter to get that done, so it's not really an easy thing to do. You kind of have to know. And Jess will weigh in on that.
This is Jess, sorry. Okay, so the process to get your account verified, you have to go through Twitter. If you have a contact at Twitter, which we do at the AFL-CIO headquarters, then it's easier. But Twitter doesn't, if you do it just through the Twitter interface, which you can, you'll be waiting a while. Priority accounts like celebrities with millions of followers and stuff that get there first, and also individuals. However, we've seen from a bunch of different folks that people who have verified accounts see organic growth from having a verified account because of the way the Twitter algorithm works. So I do recommend getting your account verified. But I would say that definitely you want to see your followers be something into like the thousands before you need to worry about getting a verified account. I would recommend it in particular if you're from a large union for your labor presidents or other labor leaders that are on their personal accounts that are sort of like their public accounts. I would definitely recommend getting those verified. And you can tweet at me at JessLivMo, and we can talk further about that if you like.
All right. Stuart says follow Talking Union. They're great too. If you want to give a shout out to your account, your organization's account, please do. It's great to see what all of us are all different doing as we advocate for our issues. In general, think before you click. Don't feed the trolls. There is no one right way to use Twitter, so don't let anyone tell you that. And if you're just new to this stuff, don't worry. You get used to it, and all these things that seem foreign get a little bit more familiar, and then you're having a lot of fun. Whether you're advocating for something or whether you're just making jokes with your friends, or whether you're meeting colleagues in the labor movement who you otherwise wouldn't be able to meet in real life. It's a really great platform. So, people are giving shout-outs. So, again, if you have questions, Footsteps, 1U Digital, and thank you guys for signing on. This is fun.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. You had a lot of fabulous questions. And, again, if you have any other questions, feel free to tweet at Doug. He'd be happy to answer them. After this presentation, probably tomorrow, the next couple of days, we'll be sending out a link to a survey about this presentation. We'd be more than happy if you would give us feedback on that. These trainings are for you. We want to know, what you thought of them, what we could do better, what we did great. So we want to be able to improve on the presentations as we do them in the future. And we'll also be sending out links to this PowerPoint presentation and video of this presentation in case you want to go back and get some refreshers or pass this on to other people. And definitely don't forget to log on to aflcio.org/digital training to sign up for the other great trainings we have coming up. I think we have one on with Jessica that you just heard from earlier on online to offline. We have a presentation on photography, all the great presentations, more on Facebook. So definitely log on to aflcio.org/digital training to sign up for those. And we look forward to seeing you guys on a future presentation. Have a great day.